faint golden line appears beneath the clouds and begins to widen. The air remains cool, but the promise of heat is already visible in the sky. The first rays do not flood the land. They search it one surface at a time. Dawn transforms the grasslands without moving a single tree or stone. Across the open plains, morning arrives with no wall or mountain to stop it. At sunrise, even ordinary grass takes on the color of burnished gold. A quiet glow settles on the savannah before the stronger light takes control. The horizon becomes a stage where color changes faster than the eye can follow. Morning mist can turn the familiar plains into a world of soft outlines. As the light grows, distant forms emerge from haze and shadow. The low light stretches every shadow and makes the land appear deeper. The dawn sky creates a new landscape from the same ancient ground. One by one, hidden details return to the visible world. The first sunlit grasses shine briefly before the day becomes bright and dry. The savannah seems almost untouched in the earliest light. Afterward, damp air and fresh activity below may attract birds back. Puddles, softened soil, and exposed insects create new feeding possibilities. The boundary of a storm can become a moving route across the plains. Bird movement often becomes more concentrated after weather changes. A clearing storm can leave dramatic contrasts between dark clouds and bright open sky. Birds crossing this boundary become clear markers of scale. Their small forms emphasize the enormous height and depth of the atmosphere. Perspective changes as birds move toward or away from the camera. Even a distant flock can show how far the landscape extends. A group may appear dense at first and then spread across the horizon. Distance turns separate individuals into a single shifting pattern. Others move around the edge of the rainfall. Closer views reveal the effort and coordination hidden within that pattern. The sky responds quickly to the transformation of the ground. Each wing beat contains a precise response to air and momentum. The apparent simplicity of flight is built from continuous correction. Across the African savannah, birds continue to connect earth and atmosphere through every rise, turn, and landing. Rain creates temporary boundaries that many birds avoid crossing. A heavy curtain of water can divide one clear area from another. Some birds wait beneath cover until the storm passes. Animals shift position as the available shade slowly moves. A resting place that was comfortable an hour ago may soon be exposed. The tree's shadow becomes a clock written across the ground. Dense crowns offer deeper shade, while bare branches provide only broken patterns of relief. Even partial shade can reduce the heat absorbed by the soil. Cooler ground helps slow the loss of moisture from shallow layers. Beneath a tree, the dry season can be slightly less severe. Seeds resting in this protected soil may survive conditions that destroy those in the open. A lost branch opens the canopy to more sunlight. The canopy influences future growth, even when it carries few leaves. Its value continues far beyond the size of its trunk. A tree shelters the next generation through the shape of its shade. The shade of one tree can support life across an entire afternoon. The dry wind tests branches weakened by age and previous storms. Each gust pulls at the crown and searches for points of weakness. Damage creates a different path for recovery. Dead limbs snap more easily and fall into the grass below. The broken wood becomes shelter, fuel, and eventually soil. Wind prunes the tree without intention, changing its future shape. That new opening may encourage growth elsewhere when moisture returns. Each branch changes the shape of that temporary refuge. The crown is rebuilt around every break and scar. Seasonal travel prevents one feeding area from carrying the full burden for too long. No single source can support large bodies forever without pressure. Their journeys help connect distant sections of the savannah. Seeds, nutrients, and plant material move with them across great distances. Their bodies become vehicles for ecological exchange. A single herd can reshape the condition of the plains along an entire route. During the wet season, fresh vegetation allows them to rebuild strength. The return of green growth supports recovery, reproduction, and the raising of young. Abundance briefly shortens the distance between food and water. For a time, the giants can feed without traveling as far. As the land dries, their movements become longer and more deliberate. The cycle continues through memory, movement, and survival. Across the African savannah, the giants remain symbols of endurance on an extraordinary scale. Their power is visible, but their patience is what allows them to persist. No single source can support large bodies forever without pressure. Their size captures attention, while their daily choices secure another day. But the season of plenty is never permanent. The giants carry the influence of one habitat into another. Movement spreads their demand across the landscape. Poor judgment can lead to exhaustion, injury, or separation from the group. experience slowly replaces impulsiveness with control. Independence begins when a young predator can locate and secure food without constant support. This transition is one of the most difficult stages of its life. Territory must be found, defended or shared under uncertain conditions. Established adults often occupy the most productive areas. A newly independent hunter may face long periods of hunger. Younger animals may be forced into marginal ground with fewer opportunities. Survival on the edges requires greater movement and adaptability. Dispersal can carry a predator far from the place where it was born. Crossing unfamiliar land increases the risk of conflict and starvation. Yet leaving may be the only path towards future breeding and territory. These journeys help connect populations across the wider savannah. Movement between regions spreads genes and reduces long-term isolation. Every successful dispersal becomes part of the future of the species. Reproduction introduces new demands into the life of a predator. Following a hunt provides lessons that cannot be learned through instinct alone. They watch how adults position themselves and respond to sudden changes. Early participation may be clumsy, but every attempt adds experience. Failure is a normal part of learning to survive. Young hunters must discover how close they can approach without being detected. They must also learn which animals are too dangerous to challenge. At another angle, the water becomes transparent enough to reveal stones and plants. The depth of natural water is rarely uniform. Changing light continually alters what can be seen. This makes careful observation important before entering or crossing. Gentle margins can drop suddenly into deeper channels. Sediment may hide holes created by currents or heavy traffic. Floating material can conceal the true surface beneath it. Even shallow water requires judgment when the bottom is unfamiliar. Firm sand provides different footing from soft mud or submerged vegetation. Each step changes the balance between progress and stability. Crossing water can consume more energy than the distance suggests. Current presses against the body and makes direction difficult to maintain. A slow-looking river may carry more force below the surface. Water moving around rocks can create unpredictable turbulence. Experienced travellers often use these quieter sections. Calm areas may form beside faster channels. The safest crossing can shift as the river rises or falls. A route used yesterday may be unsuitable after rain upstream. Exposed stones appear when levels decline. Water demands constant reassessment rather than reliance on habit alone. Seasonal change can create new crossings and remove old ones. Sandbars widen and briefly connect opposite banks. Smoke rises and turns the sky into an extension of the ground. Afterward, darkened earth replaces the former field of grass. Fire removes old stems and exposes the shape of the terrain. The openness of the landscape makes the scale of burning easy to see. It creates sharp boundaries between burned and untouched areas. The grasslands incorporate fire into a larger cycle of renewal. Blackened ground can become a place of fresh opportunity. Burned areas change rapidly once moisture returns. The absence of old vegetation allows sunlight to reach the soil. Nutrients released by burning become available for future growth. Recovery may begin in small patches before spreading outward. Flames can travel rapidly when vegetation is dry and wind is strong. Fire creates another powerful transformation across the endless grasslands. The front of a fire may stretch across a broad section of the plains. These boundaries slowly soften as recovery begins. New shoots often appear clearly against the dark surface. The contrast between damage and renewal can exist within the same view. Within time, the scars of fire become less visible. Even closely related species can survive side by feeding at different heights or times. The savanna's abundance comes partly from this careful separation of diets. When preferred food disappears, flexibility becomes a powerful advantage. This division of resources reduces direct competition across the plains. Worn teeth make every dry stem harder to process. Some animals shift toward tougher plants, while others travel farther in search of familiar forage. A change in feeding behavior can signal that the season is beginning to tighten its grip. The condition of teeth can determine how well an older animal survives periods of poor food. Browsers may pull down branches and make leaves available to smaller animals below. Nutrition influences strength, reproduction, movement, and resistance to disease. Some animals maintain close associations for years. Behind every calm feeding scene lies the urgent need to keep the body supplied with energy. Individuals recognize familiar companions and respond differently to strangers. A herd is not a crowd without structure. It is a moving system of relationships. Long-standing bonds can influence who rests, travels, or feeds beside whom. One grazer can expose fresh growth that another is better equipped to use. Different bodies turn the same plant community into many separate opportunities. Others form temporary groups that change whenever resources move. After rain, the evening sky appears sharper, deeper, and filled with reflected light. Reflections remain bright, even after the surrounding banks have darkened. Storm clouds at sunset turn the horizon into a meeting of shadow and fire. The weather writes its final signature across the sky before night arrives. Still pools hold the sky like dark mirrors framed by reeds and mud. A narrow opening in the clouds can send a glowing path across the plains. During the dry season, dust softens the sun into a pale red circle. Moisture, smoke, haze, and cloud all reshape the final colors of the day. No two evenings arrange light and shadow in exactly the same way. Each season gives the savannah a different kind of sunset. At the water's edge, sunset spreads across the surface in bands of gold and crimson. One ripple can scatter the entire horizon into moving fragments. Birds crossing low over water become sharp silhouettes against the reflection. Mist may begin to gather where warm water meets the cooling air. The shoreline grows harder to read as the last light drains from the land. The last visible step is followed by another beyond the horizon. The open plains carry the marks of lives that have already moved on. What remains is a landscape strengthened by everything it has endured. The wilderness keeps no monuments, yet it remembers through change. Every scar on the land becomes part of its continuing form. The final scene leaves us with a world still in motion. The savannah does not wait for witnesses to continue its story. The land continues to test every life beneath its vast sky. Even in calm, the forces of survival remain at work. Across the plains, the next challenge is already taking shape.